Catherine Austin, and welcome to Living Karma Yoga. This is a show where we celebrate all that the yoga world has to offer. We'll bring you music, postures, mantra, meditation, travel, cooking, and so much more. Yoga for 1 hour just isn't enough in today's busy world, so we'll help you take your yoga off the mat and into your life as well. I hope you find here many tools to help you live the life you deserve, and that is a life where you can literally vibrate joy, love, fulfillment, and abundance in all forms. So thank you for joining us today. And my guest is Lynn Galadner from Your People. And Lynn is going to kind of reverse the roles and interview me, but actually probably both of us, because it's about India, and Lynn got to go with me last year, so I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. It's my privilege to go back over all of our photos and our memories from a really transformative journey through India. It was such a life-changing experience. So in this show, let's try to share with our viewers exactly what that magic is in India and why you keep going back and taking people on journeys there. So I thought we could start by looking at some of our photos from the trip. And we began in the north of India. We flew through Delhi to Amritsar, where we're looking at a picture of the Golden Temple, one of the wonders of the world. And why don't you share a little bit about why it's so important to you to take your students there, spend some time there, and start your trip off there?
Just even looking at the picture, I got chills again, because it's such a special place for me, and also for my students to experience. Amritsar is the birthplace of the Sikh religion, and in the Sikh religion are the mantras that many of the mantras come out of for the Kundalini Yoga that many of my students are enjoying now. So I wanted them to go to where the birthplace is and be in that sacred sound current that is playing all the time in this temple. And this is the temple that Guru Ram Das built and gave to the people to always have a place for worship. So it's not like the Taj Mahal where it's just a museum. It is a live working temple, which you experienced.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to start there on the trip.
Well, if we look at the picture of the Golden Temple and people see the water around that sacred center, it's really a whole sort of a village. I remember when we walked in, we first went at night, and you take your shoes off. Everybody there is barefoot, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who come through every day. And there's so many facets to what's going on there, and we're all different religions, but for everybody, I really found that it was a spiritual center regardless of what your own tradition is.
Right. Remember how they show the surrounding white building that goes around the Golden Temple? There are 4 gates, and that's symbolizing that all religions are welcome here. You can, everybody can come in. So it's not just all about Sikhism.
Absolutely.
But seeking means to seek the light, and we're all seeking the light, so that's what it is.
So we began our trip there, and then we took a very memorable train ride from Amritsar to Rishikesh. And if we look at the next picture, I believe that it's part of Rishikesh. This is a fountain in a part of Rishikesh called Lakshman Jhula, which has fabulous shopping. But tell us a little bit about Rishikesh and why you spend so much time there.
I will. You first mentioned the train ride, and so on this trip I tried to give everybody like every experience of India. So we did flying within the country because we arrived in Delhi, we flew to Amritsar, but then we took the train to Rishikesh, which is an 8-hour train ride, and it's definitely an adventure. And it's fun, and I think everybody should have that experience. And we are in first class, and we are in air conditioning. But it's India.
It is. It's India.
And I won't, share all the details because I want people to have experience.
Absolutely.
So we went to Rishikesh, and that was because we were arriving for the International Yoga Festival, which is always the first week of March. So I timed the trip for that. And we attend the festival there every day. You can take as much yoga or as little as you want, lectures, music, there's everything going on. But it's in the birthplace of yoga, which is Rishikesh. And so this is where the Beatles went. This is where they had all that creativity come out from the meditating in the ashrams there, and we went there to that ashram. So it's a hubbub for yoga.
I think our next picture will actually show us the ashram where the Beatles were. you know, this was really cool. I mean, it says all you need is love, which of course is a famous refrain from a Beatles song. These were just stones that were placed randomly throughout the ashram where the Maharishi taught transcendental meditation. And we took sort of a backseat tour since it's not open to the public.
Right.
And you took us through there, and tell us a little bit about why that is so important to this journey that you take.
Well, it's historical because everybody knows that the Beatles came and had that prolific experience with meditating. And it isn't open to the public anymore, so it makes it that much more special to be able to get in and see where all that transformation took place. And couldn't you feel the spiritual energy still alive in there?
Absolutely.
Whew, it was just so strong.
I mean, even the graffiti was spiritual and inspiring. I have so many pictures in my house now of the graffiti from the ashram. And then right outside of it was where we fed monkeys. Yeah. Who some were friendlier than others, but they were very cute. And then, you know, that was just a little excursion. And this trip is sort of full of opportunities like that, where you can spend your days immersed in yoga, or you can shop, or you can explore. And there's so much to do. And it's really, because you're in the foothills of the Himalayas, it's a very serene, safe place to discover who you really are, right?
I like the northern trip that I've been taking people on, this Amritsar, Rishikesh, because I feel like they're getting even more of a spiritual journey versus taking them to the south, which we enjoyed. That was more an Ayurvedic experience.
Right.
But the north is going to get you to the birthplace of yoga and to the mantras and meditations. And even further on in the trip, we meditated in a cave. Right. Which is amazing. The only way to do it.
Amazing. I remember when I was leaving India, because I left before you did, and I was in the airport in Delhi for the 3:30 flight to Amsterdam. And I was so sad to leave. I was so emotional about leaving a place that, frankly, I never was sure I had wanted to go in the first place.
Right.
And there was a woman, an American woman, getting on the plane, and she was really fed up. She never wanted to come back to India. And I said, well, where did you go? And she was, you know, running throughout the country for 2 weeks, and she was just exhausted.
Right.
And I didn't feel that way at all, because you take people on such a spiritual journey.
And that's why I also only have a couple destinations, because I've been to India enough. You can't run around India. Travel takes a long time. Everything is over sensory loaded. It's great, but you can only do so much in one day. Right. And you need downtime, you need grounding time. Even when we arrived and we did that quick stop at Amritsar, it was a lot because we were just kind of jet lagged. And then we grounded you in Rishikesh for 8 days, 9 days. Yeah. And you know, that's where you see everybody have their transformation. They're like, oh, okay, I'm used to India, I'm settled in, wow, this is amazing.
Right, right. Let's look at the next picture and see what else we have. So this is our group, and we had a nice intimate group, although I think your next one is going to be really full to the gills because everybody's so excited from this trip.
Right.
In this picture, we're in the Yoga Ghat, which is where Gurmukh taught her Kundalini class every morning, which was, for me, a highlight of the trip. But look how happy everybody is. I mean, we were just, you know, thrilled with the transformation just from each yoga class. Do you want to talk a little bit about how the group comes together?
Yeah, well, I had recently introduced Kundalini into the Karma Yoga studio 3 or 4 years ago, and so people are doing it more and more, and they wanted to have this experience with Gurmukh Khalsa, who is 71 years old, a very senior teacher in the lineage, and to be able to take the class with her on the Ganges, the most spiritual river, you're right on the edge, every day, and then have that experience with her of a 7-day unfolding was really powerful.
And it's true that you hear the current of the Ganges while you're practicing yoga. Right. It's just a beautiful, beautiful spot.
And the Himalayas are all just popping up around us, and we stop and have a beautiful lunch afterwards. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
That's for sure. Yeah. Let's see where our next picture will take us. So we had, we did not eat off of the fruit carts. We were very Western, but we ate well when we were in India, didn't we? Do you want to talk a little bit about the food and the flavors?
Well, a lot of people are fearful when they come to India, and you had mentioned it too. It's obvious you can get sick in a foreign country. Sure. So, but it's very possible not to, and to eat very well. And I've done a lot of traveling in India and research, and I only take you to places that are safe to eat at and clean, you know, as for Westerners. But that said, you're able to have a full palette of Indian food if you want, Also, they have non-Indian food because Westerners travel there, so there's plenty of options on the menus.
I think we certainly ate well on this
We
trip.
ate really well. Too much naan for me.
Oh my gosh. Let's see what else we have for our photos.
But you don't eat off the street. You just can't.
No.
It's not worth taking the risk.
So this photo is from actually a chai cart, and speaking of eating off the street, which we didn't, but we had chai, I think, morning, noon, and night when we were there.
Chai is the best.
Oh, it's so good. And coming back, there are very few places where you can find a true Indian chai.
Right, you didn't realize what the difference is, the authentic
Yeah.
chai.
But that was really wonderful, and that was certainly a high point of the day where we'd gather back at the hotel and just sit and talk and sip our chai and really enjoy.
Morning, noon, and night, we want to have another chai.
It's true, it's true. Let's see the next picture that we have. So these beautiful children, do you want to talk a little bit about how we came into contact with them?
Yeah, through the Kundalini community, they have a very strong connection with Ramonas Garden, which is a beautiful orphanage a little north of Rishikesh, still on the Lakshmanjula side. And so we wanted to go and support this orphanage, and they have amazing food. They also serve, it's all organically grown, and
it's the only salad I had in India. It was wonderful.
I know, that we could eat there. But also to meet the children, and you go ahead and explain what we did a little further with the children.
Sure. Well, we went for lunch, and we sat outside, and we did a little research ahead of time, both of us, to see how we might support the orphanage. And you can sponsor children. I think it was something like $300 per child for the year.
For a year.
Which is their education, clothing, food, shelter. And both of us sponsored children. And really very interesting, the proprietor of the orphanage, who's a woman from Colorado, I think it was. She's been there a long time, and she told us to choose our children, took us to a classroom, and I know that was a little jarring for me because I felt that they were all worthy.
Right.
But in fact, they did. They picked kids for us, and we got to meet them, take pictures with them. And, for us to make a donation, it was so easy, and it goes so far for them.
Right.
So how did you feel about that?
I'm still really touched by it all. I just feel like it's a beautiful thing that I can do. It's not expensive. We can help these children. And in India, the children need the help, and I'm glad that we could be of service this way.
Absolutely. Let's see what other photos we have from our journey. Well, this mudra, maybe you can explain a little bit, but this was our welcome into Delhi's airport. We were arriving very tired and excited from 2 plane rides, across the world. And at the international arrivals in the Delhi airport are all the mudras. This looks very small in the photo, but it's really huge.
Oh, they're huge.
It's it's on the wall above where you come in and you go through customs and everything, and it's all the mudras. It's a work of art. So of course, to me, I snapped a bunch of pictures because I felt that this was essential India. Really told us we had arrived.
I know. So I love when you arrive and this whole wall of mudras is up there.
Yeah. So tell a little bit about mudras and why this is such a welcoming gesture to have that in the airport there.
Well, mudras are just simply forms that we place with the hands to create certain energy currents, just like we do with the yoga postures. That mudra was the mudra of abundance.
Oh.
And if you have Lakshmi, who is the goddess of beauty and abundance, you'll always see her, her right hand is up in blocking obstacles, and the left hand is like that mudra, and that's pouring out of gold coins or of abundance. So that was a nice one to pick.
Yeah, very
But
nice.
everybody coming for their first time arriving in India loves to see that, because oh my gosh, you never see that in an American airport.
Well, that was, I'm really glad you made that point, because that is the difference between India, I think, and the rest of the world. You find a piece of art that has meaning, and also, that was in the international terminal, but the next day when we were checking in to go to our Amritsar flight, our domestic flight, there was a huge sculpture that was the sun salutation, right? It was huge, and it was every posture in the morning sun salutation.
I know.
And again, where are you going to find that other than in India, right?
Well, don't you find that when you were in India, there's just spirituality everywhere? It's not just on Sundays or Saturdays. You know, it's every day of the week. People are going to temple, or they're praying, or they're meditating. And even though that culture works 15 hours a day, they're still fitting it in.
Absolutely. Well, and we see all kinds of, prayer and gratitude throughout the day. I see it since we're now friends with Govind, our hotel proprietor from Rishikesh, on Facebook. In his posts, I see meaning all the time in spirituality.
Right.
Another thing that really struck us, I know we have a photo of this not here, but among the 500 or so photos that we took, was in the Delhi hotel. There was the Holy Bible next to the, what was the holy text that was there? It was,
the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, the Bhagavad Gita. And so they were side by side in the hotel. We were in the Radisson. And I had to take a picture. I think it was one of my first pictures in India.
I know,
because
it's so great.
Where else do you see that, right? That's true. Maybe you can talk a little bit about where we stayed when we were in India. What kind of accommodations?
Yes, for sure. I want Westerners to feel really comfortable, because after a 30-hour travel, you're pretty tired and you're upside down time-wise, time zone-wise. So we move right into the Radisson Airport Hotel at the Delhi airport, because we have to stay for a few hours to catch the next morning plane to Amritsar. And once we went to Amritsar, which is a short flight, it was like 1 hour, we also stayed at the Radisson up there. And it was beautiful, and they had a pool, and people felt really like, balanced. You can be in India, but you could also go back to a quiet hotel.
Sure. Well, unlike Rishikesh, Delhi and Amritsar really do accost the senses. There's lots of noise, lots of
just big cities.
Energy, movement, and so it's nice to have that little retreat.
You need it.
Whereas in Rishikesh, which is very peaceful and just...
You're more in the country, kind of.
But the hotel where we stayed there, and you're friends with the owner, it's simple, it's clean, it's very accommodating. I mean, really attending to your every need, but you don't feel like you need a retreat as much up there.
Right. Well, you're more by the river in the mountains, and it was so beautiful that my friends built this small kind of boutique hotel. I met them years ago by they had a shop in town, and I was buying malas for the studio, and they said to me one day, "I'm going to build a hotel. You bring your yoga retreat here." And I'm like, "Right, you're going to build a hotel." So I went back and to check it out when it was done, and it was amazing. In fact, they're going to build a second hotel.
Are they really?
2 doors down. Yep,
oh my gosh!
All set. So you can't being in a small hotel with friends as the owners and managers, because who's going to better take care of you? So didn't you feel that? They were there for our every need. It wasn't like the big Radisson that's not really, it's so corporate, they're not going to.
No, I feel like they're my friends now too, and I've known them for all of 10 days or something.
Right.
But I can't wait to go back, and I would go there anytime.
And then any shopping we wanted, they took care of that and helped us with, and they have many shops in town, so they're lovely, lovely friends.
Yep. Let's see the next photo that we have here. So this photo is me hiking up in the Himalayas, and we had a great experience of hiking to a waterfall. And then you had the experience after I left of whitewater rafting down the Ganges. So maybe share a little bit about those outdoor experiences that people will have on a retreat with you. Yeah,
there's so many things you can do. You can do as little or as much as you want. But this waterfall was only a 20-minute car ride away. An exciting 20-minute car ride, winding up the sides of the mountain. Just don't look out the window.
Is that a lane, really?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, it's pretty exciting.
Yep.
And remember when we parked and all the cashmere goats were coming down the mountainside in front of the car?
With the goat herder.
With the goat herder.
Yeah, it was very cool.
It was so beautiful. And then that was quite a steep trek, but it was great. You know, we liked the workout into the legs and everything. A little rocky and windy, but all the way up was along that waterfall.
Yep.
And when we got to the top, many of our students jumped in and swam. It was unbelievable.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
We kind of wimped out. I think if we could go back, we would jump right in.
I would totally go in this time. I didn't bring the right clothing or swimsuit to go up there.
Right. But some people even just said, "Oh, I don't have a bathing suit. I'm going in anyway." So
those are the men.
Yeah. That's funny.
Then you had to go home, but we went on to a resort that was more up in the mountains.
Yep.
But not that far away, and immediately you felt a little more relaxed out of the hubbub of Rishikesh. And even if you were staying in Rishikesh or a little further up, you can go whitewater rafting. And that was such a highlight for me. I was a little nervous. I was a little scared. And it was fantastic. I mean, to whitewater raft the Ganges River in India in the Himalayas, that's pretty profound.
I know, absolutely. And the stories that you told about everybody's reactions and then the actual just journey of going down the river were just, I wish I had stayed.
Well, that's a very healing river, so whether you're in it or in a boat, you're going to get the healing energy from it. It kind of washes away.
And then at the yoga festival, really our yoga was at the festival. But on either side of it, in Delhi, in Amritsar, and then after the festival in the mountains, you taught the yoga.
Yes, I always taught the yoga. So it was nice. I got to teach you plenty and afterwards as well. And then it was great to do yoga together with each other at the festival.
It was. Let's see if we have any other photos left for this interview. I'm not sure if we're done. All right then.
And even in the festival, sometimes we did yoga together and other times people went off to what they wanted to do, which is great. And remember how we always tried to meet for lunch and dinner? So we always had a very strong connection as a group.
There was a really nice balance between independence and exploration on your own and some of your own solitude and group endeavors. And so, you know, the Beatles ashram, the rafting, all of those things, people could join in or not. And the schedule for the festival, you know, it's funny, I think I had shared with you beforehand, I'm a very impatient person. So going to a yoga festival for a week really sounded boring to me. How am I'm going to be done after 2 days. Of course, I really was in tears when I had to leave early, but there was such a richness of opportunities with classes, lectures, yoga classes, as well as just intellectual discussions. And then the morning sadhana every morning at 4, which I got to once and mostly slept through, but but I got there. You know, there was such an array of opportunities, and I really felt that it was the perfect length of time. There was just so much to dive into.
There's plenty there. And you need the time too in between to get some shopping done because there's so much that you want to get.
Well, that was really fun too because we shopped throughout the week. We bought jewelry and we bought clothing and blankets and beautiful little sculptures that we could ship home. So there's a lot of opportunity just to explore and see.
And you want to do that. You want to see the cow in the white top shop, you know,
who follows you in the door. It's no big deal.
I would love for you to just talk a little bit about your whole transformation for when I asked you to go along on this trip, because it was for PR as well, and your hesitation and maybe nervousness about going, as everybody is before they go to India. And then I got privilege of watching you have this massive transformation to the other way, and talk about just how that felt for you.
Well, it's interesting because when you invited me to come, I just felt like I couldn't say no. What a great opportunity. And I also know, because I've done this before in different destinations, the power from a PR perspective of what we were doing was posting photographs every day on Facebook and blogging every day, and how wonderful it is to reach your students and your eventual retreat participants with, you know, a by-the-minute, up-to-date account of what's going on and really build that suspense and that energy. So I knew that that would be really great for your business, and I do believe it was. But after I said yes and then sort of thought about it for a while, and I have 4 children and I run a business, and I thought, originally I was going for the full 3 weeks, you know, how could I be gone for 3 weeks from my life here? And, you know, unfortunately, in America, we do not have that luxury of long vacations. In every country around the world, you have built in 5, 6 or more weeks, and here we just don't. So that's part of our conditioning, but my children had a really upsetting response to me going away for so long. And I thought about it and I pondered it. I debated whether I had made the right decision, and I really did meditate on it with your encouragement, and decided to shorten it to 2 weeks, which for me at that time was perfect. And again, I think partly I was nervous to leave everything, but I was also nervous because I did not know where I was going. And I've traveled all over the world, and I've never been nervous about that. But you hear so much about India that I really imagined filth in the streets, which wasn't true. I imagined being sick the whole time from the food, wasn't true. That it would be so crowded I would have no personal space. Again, it wasn't true. And I think that partially that's because of how you create your trips. I don't think that every visit to India is
Right.
quite as peaceful or spiritual.
Of course.
But I think that that's really the benefit of going with you, because it is a spiritual journey. And my whole focus in the work that I do is very spiritual. So it really struck the core of who I am, and it helped me to clear up any blocks or obstacles that I had in my work, and really get in touch with who I am. And I think that was the most powerful trip I've ever taken. You know, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's really true that when I left everybody and I was very teary, and it was probably, an hour drive to the Dehradun airport, I was in the airport and I was trying not to cry, thinking people are going to look at this Western woman saying, what is wrong with her? But I was so sad boarding that plane. I love my family, I love my work, I couldn't wait to come home and see them, but I really did not want to leave.
It really is a trip of a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do enough to explain that to people when I'm telling them about it, unless you go and have that experience.
Well, I do have to say, I was very skeptical. You kept saying that, and I trust you so much. And I kept thinking, well, maybe for Catherine it was it was a transformative journey, but it won't be for me. I've been to other places. And I have to say, absolutely 100%. There's no question. But I really didn't understand it until I went. It's true.
And there are difficult times of journeying through India, and so there's lots of polarity going on. But I feel that I really hold the space well for people to, when, like any trip, when you might hit the wall and you need a break or you need some rest, we just go with it.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to travel through India.
Right. But it is something that you should do. There's no question. Well, I think that's a wonderful conversation about our journey through India, and I hope people watching will join you next year when you go.
Thanks.
If I can figure out a way, I'll be there again.
Well, next year I am going to keep it to 2 weeks, understanding that most people don't get 3 weeks off, right? And so it will be the similar dates. It'll be February 24th through like March 10th or 11th, because the yoga festival is always the 1st through the 7th.
Right.
And you have to understand it takes you 2 days to travel to India and 2 days to get home.
Yep.
So that's squeezing it into 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
But that'll be a nice option for people now to, better make that work with their work schedule and their children.
Absolutely.
And we'll have that information up pretty soon.
And on the Karma Yoga website, karma-yoga.net. So that'll all be there, and people can register. I know there's an early registration discount too.
And you're thinking about maybe joining us back there for part of it? Or?
I am thinking about going for the festival, and I have several people I'd like to bring along. So let's see if we can make that happen.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining me. And it's so fun to do this like double take, because we did this interview last year and you hadn't gone yet, and now you've gone. It's a whole different
conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynn. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you'd like more information about Karma Yoga, visit our website at www.karma-yoga.net. Namaste.